everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by littleshaman.org. That's me, the Little Shaman. Today I wanted to bring you this series that I'm calling Interview With The Narcissist, and I have here with me as my guest a person who was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. He has chosen to go by the name Joe, which is not his real name. And we're going to be covering a lot of information, which is why I've decided to break it up into a couple different videos. How long had it been since she died that they called?
It was the next day.
So they didn't even call you when it happened?
No, it was the next day.
So you were basically treated as not part of the family. I mean, that would be a very narcissistic reaction, where when somebody escapes from the narcissistic environment or the narcissist control, they are ghosted and the narcissist pretends that they do not exist.
Yeah, my two aunts, my mom's sisters, they were glad to see me there. But, I mean, as far as anybody else, it was, as soon as we got there, we went to the wake. So there wasn't really much time to, talk very much. We stayed for a few days after, but Dad was just ready for us to go. I mean, he was going through his own thing, though, so I didn't really, hold it against him.
So do you feel that growing up you were actually part of a real family, or how would you describe that environment?
I mean, part of our family, as much as our family was a part of each other. I mean, we all acted the same towards each other. I guess that's so, I mean, we were a part of our family as far as, in its own dysfunctional way, but not like a normal family.
Well, what do you consider a normal family? To me, my idea of a normal family are people who live together and spend time with each other and care about each other and support each other and things like that. What you are describing and what you have described previously during other conversations we've had sounds very cold.
Yeah, wasn't really emotional support there, so the way we dealt with each other was basically yelling at each other.
All the time?
A lot of the time, yeah. There's times where my wife tells me, "Hey, why are you getting aggressive? I'm agreeing with you here." Why? Because that's just, I guess, my brain developing, that's what I was taught, that's what I know. Most of the time, I don't even know it until I get caught on it.
Going back to something you said earlier about how you had a very creative and you had a really rich imagination, do you think that helped you in coping with the idea and the fact that you had nobody else to rely on but yourself?
Yes, because in my own world, man, I felt safe. I mean, as I got past that preteens, 12 or 13, and like I said, I think my best friend, when he left, which I think had something to do with it, because then there was nobody I could rely on, because he knew what was going on. That's why we were always over at his place.
Why? Because your parents fought all the time.
Right. So he knew what was going on. Once he left, then there was just nobody, at least not for a few years.
And so you made no attempts to reach out to them. And do you know why that is? What is the reason why you never attempted to reach out?
Well, one, because they yelled all the time, so I would be scared. Because I didn't want to get yelled at about it. I didn't want to get yelled at for feeling the way I do.
And you were afraid that was a possibility, that you were going to get yelled at for your feelings?
Yeah. The whole point is not to get yelled at in a house where everybody yells at each other. So, I was trying to avoid that.
The whole point, what do you mean? That was the point of your existence, was trying not to get yelled at?
Yeah.
Do you still feel that applies to you today as an adult?
Yes.
So the majority of what you do is an attempt to not get in trouble or to not be criticized.
Yeah, I try to avoid all that. A lot of times I try to avoid confrontation. If I feel like someone's getting aggressive or just that kind of tension, you could say, then I kind of try to stand back. But then there's times where that standing back kind of gets to me, and then I start getting irritable, and then the stress hits, and it just gets into the zone, and it just gets bad from there.
And would you say that is mostly a defense mechanism against criticism, like the anger and different behaviors that, for lack of a better term, we could call them narcissistic behaviors, such as blame shifting and projection and things like that? Is that a way to try to sidestep or avoid criticism?
Well, yeah. That's what I was taught.
And what's the reason? So you're saying your parents modeled those behaviors, that they behaved that way?
Yeah. because they would argue with each other and they would blame each other, or they would blame us because we cost them too much money, or that's the reason why they would yell at us when they're yelling at each other, because they would argue about money all the time, and then they would yell at us because we would cost them too much money and they would have more money if we weren't born, and things of that nature.
How does that make a kid feel when they hear that?
Sad, not wanted, rejected.
The word that comes to my mind is worthless.
Yes. Wish I'd hear that word too.
What, that you were worthless?
Worthless, useless, every name. When people say every name in the book, man, I feel like my parents wrote that book. And it's weird because people would think growing up like that, you would have a thicker skin. You heard that when you were a kid. I bet you people could say whatever to you. No, it triggers you. I hate using that word trigger, but I mean, to me, that's what it is.
That's the appropriate word.
I don't like using the word trigger because it sounds so immature, but at the same time, that is what it is.
Yeah, they're pushing a button that goes to something very deep in your mind. Pulling a trigger, that's what it means.
Yes, exactly. So it's just how my brain developed. I feel like people could say, well, you're like 40, you need to get over your parents. Well, it's not so much really getting over my parents, but it's just my brain has developed into that pattern that's all I know. And anything else, it's completely foreign. And not only that, just scary as hell. Because that's what I know.
Well, and even still, wouldn't you say that to have such a giant reaction to even small criticisms, that indicates that your own emotions must be frightening to react like that? I mean, if you're desperate for any reason, any way to feel better, then that tells me there's a component of fear there.
Yeah, constant state of fear.
What are you afraid of?
The question would be, what am I not afraid of?
Well, in the context of your feelings, let's make it a little smaller. In the context of your feelings, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid that they'll overwhelm you? Are you afraid of losing control, going crazy, that you're never going to stop feeling that? Like, what's the fear?
All of that. Every bit of it. I'm a big wuss, but I'm an asshole because I'm a big wuss.
Right, it's like protective coloring.
Pretty much. Like the protective part of me that turns into an asshole and just fires back because the person that it's protecting is a big wuss coward that needs to be protected, and he feels like there's nothing external that does protect him. Even if there is people that are willing to support him, he doesn't believe in that because, his own parents weren't supportive. What would make me think that? How can you trust anybody?
What do you think is the legacy of your childhood or your parents?
The legacy of my childhood or my parents?
Yeah, in your life, what is the legacy? What is the lasting imprint? What is the final word? If you could describe it with an emotional word, that would be great.
How about I say it in 3 words? Since there were 3 kids. A waste of space, death, and a workaholic trying to distract himself from who he is. That's their legacy.
And I assume yourself to be the waste of space?
Yeah.
Do you think that self-hatred is because of how you were treated in your childhood? This is very important. A lot of my listeners are very, very concerned with their own children and with the childhoods of the narcissists in their lives. So I really want to be clear. Do you think that self-hatred that you feel that causes you to react and do all these terrible things, do you think that was caused or exacerbated, meaning made worse, by the way you were treated?
Yeah. I hear them words every day, constantly. From the time I wake up to the time I go to bed.
You hear their words in your mind from when you were a child.
Yeah. There are certain ways where I always call it noise. The noise. Like I said, when I smoke weed, calms the noise. Or, some days are better than others, but then there's some days where it gets to where I'm just nothing but an irritable bastard.
And that's because of that?
Yeah, it's because of that. And then it gets to the person I'm caring about, and then they say something, and then there we go.
Because now they've presented a target for you to attack.
Yeah, not only that, but it's just also, I feel like it's piles onto the noise that's already there to the point it's hard to handle.
Do you tell your loved ones that you're having all that internal strife or problems?
No, I don't. I would talk to a therapist about it, but it's not really to get help or anything. It's just, I don't really have much as far as friends or anything like that. So it's just somebody for me to vent to, really. That's all a therapist is to me.
If you don't tell your loved ones how you feel, then how do you expect them to know?
As far as loved ones go, they would already know about my problems to begin with. As far as that particular type of issue, they would know that as far as the noise and everything like that.
You said some days are better than others, so how are they to know what's going on any given day if you don't tell them?
I don't know, but I'm afraid to say anything for the sake of causing a problem over it.
But doesn't it inevitably cause a problem anyway?
Yeah, it does.
If you could give advice to anyone out there, or if you had a final word to tell people about how they take care of their children and how they raise their children, what would you say?
Talk to them, listen to them. If they want to if they're coming to you about something, hear them out. Listen to what they got to say. Actually have a discussion with them. Try to teach them. Definitely don't ever make them an inconvenience. Because kids will remember that. Kids are the smartest people in the world. They remember everything.
They're little sponges, and if their parents reject them or their parents don't care about them, that sets the tone for the entire rest of their life.
Yeah.
Do you think that there is any hope for you or other people who are afflicted with narcissistic disorders?
Be perfectly honest. Besides maybe the right type of mood elevator, no. People like us, we just try to survive the day and wake up and do it again. So miserable and so full of self-hatred that we're just, if it's somebody like me, we just wait until God actually gives us our mercy to freaking let us go. You'd say that we're given this to overcome, but sometimes, man, it's just too much.
So you don't feel that there's really any escape from your problems?
No.
And do you feel that that's why you will be abusive or antagonistic towards other people as a way to sort of let off steam or to try to make yourself feel better?
Probably so.
Does it work? Does it make you feel better?
In the end, no.
Well, but when you're doing it, does it make you feel better?
Yeah.
I'm sure that was very hard for you to admit.
It's unfortunate, but
I want to thank you for your honesty. I know a lot of our listeners are tuning in because they are looking for the honesty that they cannot get from the narcissistic loved ones in their life. So I want to thank you for being as honest as you are able to be. Is there anything else that you would like to say to people before we end the show?
first off, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on here to be able to hopefully shed some light to a lot of people that are dealing with people like me. I hope you all got at least a little something out of it.
Hopefully they can get some understanding of their narcissistic loved one out of this interview. Well, again, thank you so much for your honesty. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We are going to cover a lot more in future episodes of Interview with a Narcissist. You've been listening to Meditations and More, brought to you by littleshaman.org. I hope this clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions. May the Great Spirit bless you and have a wonderful day.